Good afternoon. I'm very happy to be welcoming you to the project presentations of the Living Past course of Spring 2021. This is already the third live stream of its kind and the fourth time that the course is organized, but in case it's your first time, hereby a gentle introduction. Living Past is an transdisciplinary course, actually, hands-on course in which students from all the faculties are invited to bring the history of Utrecht to life using digital technologies. Now, the first part of this course is about learning about design research and the disciplines required to bring history to life and to better understand the city. The second part is the final project, which takes place in the final 5 weeks of the course and which our student teams are very happy to present to you now their results of. We will have 2 project presentations of about 30 minutes and a general discussion afterwards. And I will be giving you a short introduction of each of these teams. First, we will listen to the team creating the product Domstad in de Oorlog, or Dam City in Wartime. It is an educational visual novel about the student resistance in the Second World War. And together with a graphic designer, they developed an interactive storyline that enables high school students to make impactful choices in a Second World War setting. Secondly, we have the team Dom Square Building Seen from the Past, who will present a website with short historical information videos about 3 different buildings in Dom Square, each video including an option for users to pick specific topics of interest to learn more about. They're looking forward to presenting to you various stories surrounding the Academy building. During this chat, make sure to ask questions in the chat. You can do so in the YouTube live stream chat. There is a little bit of delay on the stream, so make sure to put them in right when you have them. You can do that during the presentation and at the start of the Q&A, of course. And I will remind you of it periodically because those questions really make this live stream tick well. Otherwise, I'm very much looking forward to seeing the work of the students as well. And we're going to be starting with the team Domstad in de Oorlog, which we'll be switching to right now. Hello, Hannah.
Hello.
This is the Teaching and Learning Lab that they're streaming live from in Utrecht. And hereby I'd like to give them the floor. So enjoy.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for joining us on this live stream. We will start with an introduction of our team. My name is Hannah. I'm a 4th year liberal arts and sciences student with a major in educational sciences.
Hello, I'm Tom. Eva, can you see the presentation right now or not? Oh, okay, great. I'm a 3rd year at Public Administration and Organizational Sciences.
Yes, hello, I'm Rick. I'm a 1st year liberal arts and sciences student.
And together we developed a visual novel about the student resistance during the Second World War in Utrecht. The visual novel is accessible through a link, so it is accessible on any device, but it works best on computers. The visual novel consists of 3 scenarios, and the first scenario is the scanning of the sky. This happened on top of the Dam Tower, and students had to scan the sky to see if any planes were flying over, and they had to report these planes to see if they were German planes or if they might be dangerous. This happened right after the bombing of Rotterdam. The second scenario is setting fire to the record room of the Academy building. This was where all student records were stored. And during the war in 1942, the Nazis wanted to send half of the student population to Germany to work in camps, and students prevented this by setting fire to all the records, so they were all destroyed. And the third scenario is the establishment of the illegal publisher Deviated. After each scenario, students will be directed to an interview with a specialist about the event in form of either a podcast or a video or maybe something else. And there are quite some advantages of visual novels or learning games in general. And I will tell you the academical background of our product right now. So in the past decade or so, there's been a significant increase of learning games in education. And there are many advantages of this. One of the purposes is to provide information at a time where it makes sense. As opposed to reading information in a study book where it's not really linked to any certain occurrence. In this visual novel, students are presented with appropriate information at an appropriate time, which means that the player will receive information that they need to make a decision in the game. This makes information more meaningful, and this makes for a better storage in the long-term memory. So it helps students to remember information better. Educational games also mean that students can learn at their preferred learning pace. So it facilitates different learning abilities of students, and it's easier for a teacher to walk around and individually help students while they are working. Another advantage of historical learning games specifically is that they provide a way to bring history back to life and help students better imagine events that happened in the past. This also aids them in historical thinking. At the end of the visual novel, students are provided with a text about how after the war people were classified as either good or bad, good or evil. You were only good if you had joined the resistance, and for this reason, many people said that they joined the resistance after the war when they had actually not joined the resistance. And students are then asked if they agree with this view of good and bad, black and white, or if they maybe can think of reasons why you would not have joined the resistance or even had joined the NSB. Lastly, taking part in a digital educational game, historical game, helps students to see that choices they make affect later events. So history is not an event on its own, but a string of events that are all of influence on the present. And then I'm going over to Rick, who will tell you a bit more about the developing process.
Yes. So one of the first things Ivor and the team showed us was the double diamond model. They promised the double diamond model would help us to go from zero to a prototype. Well, first you start with mapping. Mapping is a bit of a vague term, so I will explain it to you. Mapping is doing a broad research on a place or maybe a situation. This year, Living Past was about the Dome Square. So we all started mapping the Dome Square, which means that we're not only looking for facts or data or events that happened, but we also look at what a place meant for the people or means for the people, and what role or function it has in a neighborhood or in a city. So you totally zoom out. That's the first thing of the first diamond. After that, you need to focus on one specific thing you want to improve at the place. So you are going to brainstorm what can be improved or what's a problem people have to deal with at some place. So you zoom in again. And after you know what the problem is, you can improve. You define it really specifically, and you set boundaries. Well, after that, you zoom out again because you're going to look for solutions. So you brainstorm about what solutions could be. You test some solutions. You look at some outcomes. And after that, you choose one solution you want to work out. And in the end, you want to make a design that fits the solution. So how did this model look for us? The first diamond we did all individually. So everyone had to map the Dome Square. So we did research about it. And everyone had to come up with a problem. And we wrote this all in our design research proposal. We all handed it in. After this, we had to form groups. So we had to pitch our ideas to every member of the group, of the whole group, and form 2 groups. So in our case, Tom has made a design to solve maybe some strict kind of relationship students have with their professors. So we wanted to make a fresh and new way of connecting by making podcasts. I wanted to bring back the imagination again for students by making videos. And Hannah wanted to make a visual novel for the reason you already heard. As you can guess, Hannah was the best in negotiating, and her idea also was the best way of fitting in all our elements of our prototype. So we choose to make a visual novel. So we're here at the point of problem definition. So we zoomed out again and we thought about which target group we had to choose and which time our novel would take place and what kind of stories we wanted to tell, and we tested some of these things. And our idea actually aroused from a few logical steps we took. So first we choose our target group. Because our Living Past course is about bringing the past to life, we wanted to teach people about the history, especially of Utrecht. So the idea quickly moved to making an application that could support the history lessons. Maybe a visual novel is a bit of childish for students of the university. So, and it's maybe a bit hard to understand for elementary school students. So our target group became high school students. And especially our target group became first, second, and third year high school students, because the older students, they think they are too cool for school and maybe think it's also a bit childish. So it was an easy pick. Then we brainstormed which period in history was the most interesting for the students. And because of our early experiences, we choose the Second World War. And we also choose it because it happened not that long ago, so people could use their imagination, which was also an element of my proposal. And because, as Hannah told us, the boundary between good and bad wasn't that big as most students think, we thought. So it was easier to make choices for the visual novel. To integrate an element of my proposal, we choose to focus us on students. So then we had to research stories that where students were the topic of the story, and that all became part of our visual novel. And now we have a trailer, right?
Yeah.
With the visual novel.
we hoped that you enjoyed a sneak peek into this project, this prototype. We want to give some credit to where we were very inspired and where we took a lot from. Earlier in this course, other group made a visual novel called The Maliban, and that really inspired Hannah and us as well to take this visual novel, but to improve it further. We really looked at this visual novel and we were quite inspired because we thought it was a really good medium to convey certain things, certain learning goals that history teachers and students have. Hannah's going to tell more about it now.
So we made 4 learning goals for students that will maybe give you an idea of what the purpose of the game is. The first learning goal is that the student can describe the choices they made in each scenario. And the second learning goal following on this is that the student can justify the choices they made in each scenario. The third learning goal is that students can reflect on the ethical issues that are part of the visual novel. And the fourth learning goal is that the student can recall acts of the student resistance in Utrecht during the Second World War. And these learning goals are not set in stone. You can choose which learning goals you want to implement. You can create your own learning goals. It all depends on what you want to do with the visual novel and how far you want to take, for example, discussion afterwards.
So in order to achieve this goal, we all of us looked critically at the Maliban visual novel. We talked about what we liked, but there were also some things we thought we could improve upon. We wanted to add more color to make it more vividly and make it more feel closer to life. We also want to make it more dynamic, and in order to learn about more different events, we chose to use 3 different scenarios instead of one long story. This makes it easier for the students to compartmentalize things and makes it also feel more energetic because there are more things happening. Some challenges that we faced during the making of this game was that we had a hard time with the technical side sometimes, because none of us had experience with coding, programming, and it was necessary to bring our vision to life. Thankfully, the staff of this course was always eager to help us and to overcome these challenges. Some other things that we struggled with was the fact that it was hard to decide when to deviate from the actual historical events that happened and to show the students to make impactful choices. Because how else are you going to put this ethical part of this game without deviating from what actually happened? Because things happen in a certain way, but in order for this to work, we need to deviate from what actually happened. But this is also something we got better in over time, and something we can continue to growing and would like to grow in. And Hannah's going to tell a bit more about the future development of this game or visual novel.
Yeah, so we have been thinking about future possibilities because we developed this visual novel in 5 weeks. And so we only took 3 scenarios that we thought were very interesting, but there were a lot of things that happened in the student resistance, or even in general, just in the resistance in Utrecht during the Second World War. So it would be really nice to expand the game to more scenarios, to maybe work together with someone who is really specialized in the history of the resistance, to add more choices in the game. The game can also be expanded to different cities to, for example, look more into the student resistance in Amsterdam or in any other city, maybe even like national acts of the resistance. It could also be tailored to different audiences, maybe make it a bit more difficult to make it more accessible for university students. This is just one audience and 3 scenarios that we chose, but it can really be expanded to a lot of different scenarios and audiences. So that's a future scope, but I think the platform can be used for many other things.
Yes, we also asked for feedback. So I asked a history teacher. I'm still in contact with him. And he tested it on his group. It's, I think, 2nd and 3rd year he tested it on. And we had some feedback. The things that could be better is that they thought it was a bit short. And we should add more emotions to the stories. So maybe less facts. And some more background information that we still have to make the podcast afterwards. So I hope that will be fine. Positive feedback was that they were impressed that this kind of learning was possible. And we could also make it in such a short time for students without knowledge before. And they thought it was really nice to have an alternative for the maybe a bit of a boring learning books. So that was really nice to hear. Tom.
Yeah. Of course, we would like to use this feedback to improve even further. Maybe it's a good moment to answer some of the questions you guys already asked us.
Absolutely, I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. Is the game in English? Yes, the game is also available in English. Someone else asked, is it publicly accessible? Yeah.
Yeah, the game is already, the prototype of the game is already accessible through a link, which we can post in the chat maybe after the presentation. This is not the finished product yet, but you can have a look at the game and how the game feels. And then probably next week we will have the finished product on the same website. I also saw a question that the prototype can be expanded to other audiences and into other scenarios. Did you already have something particular in mind? I don't think we have anything particular in mind, but we did look into some other scenarios that happens during the Second World War in Utrecht. For example, the establishment of the Kinderkomitee, which helped with smuggling Jewish children from their homes and sending them to some other place that they wouldn't be deported, and well, many other very interesting things that happened during the resistance. So those are definitely scenarios that we would like to look into further if we had a chance to develop this game more.
And also, part of the question, we can expand this to other audiences and scenarios. I think one of the main things that we learned is that this type of medium is very diverse and very dynamic, so you can change it to a lot of things. It doesn't necessarily have to be about Utrecht, it doesn't necessarily have to be about history or the Second World War, but I think you could use this for a platform of other things, but we're specifically worked around it for history. So let's get back to that. So there also was a question about an example where you deviated from historical events. One time where I had to do it was in a historical scenario. My scenario is the beginning scenario, so it's a bit of an introduction tutorial, not much is happening, but then I struggled with, do I create events that didn't happen to make it more fun, more energetic, or do I just keep it close to heart but use writing to make it feel more lively? And I think Rick also had some things he was not sure about regarding het oprichten van de bezigheid in this scenario.
Yeah, maybe something that is also in the game is that we have some characters that are completely fictional and then some characters that were actually part of the resistance. So we want to put a disclaimer at the beginning of the game that, for example, we have a story about the establishment of the Bezige Bij, the illegal publisher. And the two characters in this scenario were actually the people involved in the establishment of the Bezige Bij, and they were also involved in the burning of the academy building. But then we also have some characters that are just completely fictional, and that was a decision we made to deviate from history there, just throw in some names that weren't actually there at that time.
Yeah, I also see a question, what would be a relevant learning goal for 2021? That your individual behavior is important or that democracy is vulnerable? Really interesting question. I think a good learning goal for 2021 was coping with adversity and just accepting things as they are would be a great learning goal for dealing with the corona crisis.
Yeah, and also I think, as I mentioned before, the division between good and bad, because if you were not part of the resistance, then you were seen as automatically not very good, and if you were part of the NSB, you were definitely bad, and if you were part of the resistance, you were definitely good. And I think the learning goal for high school students is mostly that there are many reasons behind certain decisions people made. Like, for example, in the game, at one point you have to decide between helping the resistance or helping your family, and why would you make certain choices, and are you necessarily bad if you decide to help your family and thus not help the resistance? I think that's a big part of a learning goal from this game.
Yeah.
I also see a question, could high school students produce their own scenarios and add it to the platform? I think for the text and the choice, it's definitely possible. But if you really want to create a visual novel, it becomes harder because the pictures are drawn by an artist. So you either need to collaborate with maybe artists from the HKU or just the Kunstvak at high school.
Yeah, but we could add like a link at the end of the game that says if you have any ideas for scenarios, you can always send them in and we can look at developing that. So if students think, oh, I learned something during my history lesson that would be really great for this game, they can just send it in to the team that develops the game, and then it can be looked at. So that would be a nice interactive option.
I also see a question, how long the scenarios take to play. That depends on the scenario, I think, but around 5 minutes or maybe 10. I think so.
Yeah, and I think that's all the questions from the chat. So if there are any other questions, we'd really like to hear them now.
Indeed, yeah, put them in the chat. Normally I host these Q&A sections, but I think you did an excellent job self-hosting. It's really the living past spirit, right? So thank you for taking care of that for me. I do have one question, though, which I'm going to be asking every team, so you as well. And that is, what is the most memorable moment working on this project together? Could you give us a little insight into that?
Yes, we discussed it, and we thought it was the moment where, after a day of programming, because we all don't know how to program, so we were figuring it out, and we pressed kind of to enter, and the game actually worked. Like, you only see letters and spaces and etc. Before you click on enter, and if you do, and it's actually like you thought it would be. It was a really great feeling for all of us, I think. So yeah, that was the most fun moment, I think, in this course.
Very nice, yeah. I think all programmers can definitely empathize with this feeling of it working when you run it. Absolutely. What did you want to say, Hannah?
In addition to that, I think a great moment was when we received the illustrations from the artists and we put them in the game, and suddenly it all just came to life, and we had a really good idea of what the game was going to be. That was really cool.
But of course, every course was really fun to do. Every lesson.
Yeah.
Excellent. That's no better review than that, right? We still have a little bit of time, maybe 3 minutes. I'm going to give the chat a little moment to catch up if they have a final question to ask. And meanwhile, I'm kind of curious. You created a visual novel, perhaps not the most obvious thing given your academic or expertise or your background. But I'm sure your skills were actually quite useful. So what skills from your discipline or background or just life experience, what did you bring in this product in building it? And maybe we can do a little round. So maybe start with Tom, and then Rick, and then Hannah.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's quite hard to think because my study is very broad, but maybe putting different things together and also trying to look at things from a lot of different angles that put us together. And one thing I learned at my studies just get to work, and also in this course is important because especially if you have a lot of support, you can just try things, and if you fail, that's okay. Maybe that's something we use.
Yeah.
Nice. And you, Rick, what do you think?
I'm still first year, so I don't have really background, especially when I do LAS. So I was brainstorming. Maybe because I don't had a background, it was also good because I had no bias in my thoughts, maybe, or I could go everything. I could go every way, I think, because I don't have a really background, and because Hannah is also doing LAS, it was pretty easy to combine different kinds of disciplines and things. So maybe we also stimulated each other in that one.
Nice. Yeah, the transdisciplinary mindset as a skill on its own, perhaps as well. Yeah. And your thoughts, Hannah?
Yeah, I think I agree with Rick on the fact that we are both liberal arts and sciences students, so the working in interdisciplinary teams was very helpful experience to have. And also for my major in educational sciences, I could create an academic background and really see in which way an educational game would be the best to implement and in which field it would make the most sense. And I think that was really nice to have.
Very, very, very good to hear this from all of you. I have two final questions from the chat which I'd like to ask you. Let's make it a bit snappy. The first question is by Abigail Neves, who asks, how did your understanding of history change after developing this game?
I think not necessarily creating this game, but why I wanted to create this game. I read a new novel by David van Reekhoek about mundane history in the Indonesische Oorlog. And I found it really inspiring to look at history through the eyes of normal persons instead of the great names you hear every time. And I wanted to convey that in my prototype. So that's something I really wanted to do with this game.
Yeah, I really enjoyed bringing history to life, not only for students who play the game, but also for us, with the working together with Silke, our artist, for the drawings that really brought the characters to life and made me help me in historical thinking and help me in like learning about these events in the first place, because I had no idea that any of these things happened in Utrecht. So historical thinking, historical comprehension, and bringing history to life are also things that I achieved during the development of this project.
Very nice. Rick, could I ask you another question, which is, do you think the classroom you're currently in, the Teaching and Learning Lab, this is a question from Frans van Dam, has that benefited you in any way during your process?
It really benefits us because, turning around, we have a big wall here where we can write on, so that's really useful, and it's really wide and in general to see each other again after the whole corona thing was really valuable.
Yeah, it really sped the process along, just the possibility to meet each other. I think we couldn't have gotten this far without the possibility to see each other in person. And I also think this is a great moment to thank all the teachers, support, Tom, for their valuable feedback and input. And I don't think it was possible to create this game without the help from everyone in the Living Past scene.
Yes.
So we all
Yeah.
would like to thank you very much.
Definitely
Oh.
agree.
We're very, very happy to hear that. I'm sure I'm speaking on behalf of my colleagues as well there, and all the external network too. Thank you so much for this presentation. We're going over to the other team who also has lots of things to show us, and you'll be joining us again during the final discussion at the very end, and then we'll see you again in the main room. So till then, bye guys. Me for a moment. Hello again. Here we are back with the movie project by Eve, Johannes, and Akash. I'm very much looking forward to hearing what they've been working on. So I'll immediately give them the floor. Enjoy, dear audience.
Yes, thanks. Thanks everyone for tuning in. We've been working on the Dom Square building Scene from the Past project. Eva already mentioned it in the beginning, but it consists of a website with short historical information videos about 3 different buildings on Dom Square, each including an option for users to pick specific topics of interest to learn more about. For this presentation, Akash will start with presenting the product in storyboard format. We can go to the next slide. Then he will explain something about the process, where we come from, how this resulted in the prototype we have today. Avi will tell us something about filming and script writing. And finally, Akash will give a peek preview on the website and what it looks like at this moment on laptop as well as on smartphone. So I'll give the speech to Akash.
Thank you, Johannes. Um, so I would like to begin with the storyboard created for this project. The purpose of the storyboard is creating a graphic narrative. It should give you a clear overview about our project. So I will go over to the next slide. Um, so here you can see on the left side a tourist who can scan a QR code. On the background, you have the Dom Church, and he says, "I would like to know something more about the Dom Church." So let me quickly scan the QR code with my iPhone. So he scans the QR code, um, and on the next cell, um, the tourist will be guided to. Uh, as he scans the QR code, the tourist will be guided to our website. After this, he will see a video in which a virtual tour guide appears, as you can see in the second cell. Um, the tour guide is a fictional character from a certain period. In this case, he is a priest. In addition the tourist will be represented by a modern day guide. For this purpose, I have depicted this as a person. Uh, as you can see, it's a woman. But in the prototype, it will be just a voice that will represent the modern day guide. The priest introduces the tourist to the Dom Church, where the tourist can choose which subjects he wants to see. So in the third cell, he can choose from the ceiling, the nave, or uh, yeah the orchestra. um, yeah. Yeah. In this case, the choices are videos in which the topics are discussed. The first subject the tourist chooses is the nave, on which the priest tells a compelling story about the summer of 1647. I mean, the summer storm of 1647. The tourist is now outside, as you can see, outside the cathedral to see certain features about this topic. After the first topic with fun facts and stories, the tourist can choose the other topics, but he is not required to choose, which means he can end the tour here and go back to the main menu. For this purpose, however, the tourist chooses to continue with the two other subjects, and then he goes to the outro, and he is invited by the priest to visit other monuments, uh, as you can see in the right corner of the last cell. It's about the academy building, where another fictional character will act as a tour guide. Go over to the next slide. Um, Now I will discuss about our work in progress, how we came from scratch to a product. Um, well, we started this project with actually no clue what we wanted to tell our target group. We didn't even have a target group in mind. Um, but with that in mind, we started just brainstorming because we actually knew the topic, which was that this project must have something to do with the Dome Square. Um, but while we were brainstorming, we noticed that we had a recurring theme every time, namely interactive storytelling. This was also the main theme in Avi's individual project and my own individual project. So we also noticed that we wanted to tell something about buildings that didn't exist anymore, such as the nave and the castellum. But after some research, we saw that there were several tours available in regards to the Dome Square, and how. Yeah, however, these tours have a fixed set of stories with a specific order. Um, but there are more stories to tell about certain monuments, not only the most famous events that happened, and not everyone wants to hear these stories in a specific order, or not everyone is interested in all these stories. So that is why we decided it would be great if instead of the tour guide, the audience, so in this case the tourist had control over the story. We have put the decision making in the hands of the audience. In regards to the prototype and the time frame for this course, we decided to actually choose buildings that are still around, and we actually had to choose the most highlighted events because otherwise it would take a lot of time to research other less important events, since we need to also verify and implement these stories in our prototype. The next thing we needed to discuss was on which platform our ID would be best fitting. Since most people nowadays have a smartphone, it made a lot of sense that we choose a smartphone as a platform. However, we wanted to make the user make decisions. So we decided that the user can scan the QR code on the Dome Square. And by scanning the QR code, the user will be directed to a responsive website where where the user, in this case the tourist, can start the tour by clicking on the video. Um, since we wanted to connect the user to the tour, the user, in this case the tourist, will be able to choose several topics about the monument. To make things more immersive, the tour guide will be actually a fictional character that lived around that period. Um, that character can really create an atmosphere and tell the user, uh, can tell the tourist a few things about different subjects of the monument. And the tourist will be represented by a modern day guide, which asks several questions in regard to the topics the tourist chooses. In our project, we have chosen three monuments, one of which we have developed for this presentation. We have therefore opted for the Dome Tower, the Dome Square, and the Academy building, where we chose the Academy building to develop this idea. Within the Academy building, we have chosen to tell something about the auditorium. As I said before, the topics are videos where the fictional character will act as a tour guide from the past and where the tourist will be represented by a modern day guide. In our example, or in our short demo, we have chosen for the Rector Magnificus from 1936 in regards to the 300th anniversary of the university. And he was actually also involved with the tapestry in the auditorium, which is also a topic in our prototype. After that, when a certain topic or video ends, the tourist will get the opportunity to switch to another topic, and this makes the storytelling interactive. There were a few challenges in our process. By Actually, by reflecting on our brainstorm session, we didn't really have a lot of challenges at the start of this project. However, at some point we were discussing if we wanted to contribute something to the already existing Lustrum project. Ultimately, we wanted to set up our own project in which we could implement our ideas ourselves without restrictions. By that, I mean that we would carry out our own personal learning goals. For example, Johannes could edit the website, and then Avi wanted to work on a working prototype, and I wanted to go from a zero to a design on paper. Another challenge we encountered was while editing the videos, the stories we wanted to tell did not match the length of the particular video clip. So in order to fill certain gaps, we actually reused video clips and added some pictures. And now Avi will tell you something about the product development.
Yes, so now I'll be telling you a little bit about the product development, as Akash said. I'll be talking about the process of filming and script writing, and then Akash will explain the website design and the making of the website. So after we came up with the basic idea for our proposal, it was time to decide on the type of videos we would be making. We knew we wanted to highlight the concept of the user being able to choose a topic of interest, and that's why we decided to make multiple shorter videos about different topics. Each building has an intro video with more general information, and then followed by 3 more specific videos to choose from. And we knew we wanted to emphasize the past while being in the present environment, which is why we chose a person from the past to tell the information in the videos from their perspective. Next, we had to choose the style of filming. And after we discussed this, we realized that instead of just a person telling a story, it would be more interesting to do an interview style. So the person watching the video sees it through the eyes of the guide. Once we picked the style we wanted, we could start on writing the script. We divided the subjects and wrote the individual stories from a past person's perspective, while adding questions from the modern day guide. To be able to film successfully, it was very important to have detailed and complete scripts. So in the script, we included shots that we would have to take while filming, kind of like a short list. And then lastly, we made a storyboard. We drew it to kind of plan the filming process. And after a while, we realized that in order to make a high quality video, we would have to focus on just one of the buildings to actually film and leave the rest as scripts. So we decided to complete the academy building, and we contacted them to get permission to film inside of the building. And we were able to arrange the technical equipment and fitting costumes needed to create the right atmosphere and a high quality video. After we had done the necessary preparations, like the script writing, we went to the academy building. We followed the scripts we had made, and we got the needed shots, which we then edited into the final product.
So for developing this application or website, we have used the Moscow principle. This method is used to help key stakeholders understand the significance of of certain requirements. Um, in in our case, the prototype. The Moscow stands for 4 different categories. First of all, we have the must have, then we have the should have, and then the could have, and lastly, we have the will not have. So I made a summary of the most important requirements for each category for this purpose. So in this case, in our prototype, we have as a requirement that must be included. That was the responsive website, since the user can use several other Android or iOS devices. So responsiveness was really important for us, so that the tourist can have a great experience. Next, we have the should have. In our prototype, we actually use Johannes as a fictional character, but it would be awesome if the fictional character would be played by an actor, and which is also dressed to a certain period. It will add significant value if the role is played by an actual actor. And next we have the could have. On our website we have a color scheme and pictures from the past. But it wasn't really necessary to have a color scheme since the website actually works. And for this purpose, or for this prototype, we have added the most famous stories about buildings. And because as I said, within this time frame, it wasn't reachable to implement the less important stories about buildings. So for now, I will show you a short demo. I will grab my screen. I hope it is visible. So as I said, when the tourist grabs his phone, he can scan a QR code on the Dome Square, and when he scans the QR code, he will be redirected to this website where you have the main page with an introduction, and you have the 3 main topics. So I will show you our introduction.
Hi there, welcome to the past, where people from the past tell you about their history. I will be your guide. I will be your eyes, your ears. My questions will be your questions. Where I walk, you will go. Try to follow in my footsteps around Dome Square, as I will follow your instructions on where to go, while we explore Dome Tower, Dome Church, and the Academy building. We will be guided by great people from the past, so click a picture below and let's go.
So after this introduction, the tourist can choose a topic. In this case, as Avi said, we actually chose the Academy building. So let me go quickly to the Academy building. And then you will see the introduction video of the Academy building. And below you have the 3 separate subjects or topics of the Academy building. So let me start the introduction of the Academy building.
Hi there, I heard you knocking on the door from the future. Welcome to 1936. Please come in. First, let me introduce myself. I'm Director Magnificus, the head of this university. This year is a special year. It's the 300th anniversary of this university, and for that, we have built these new carpets. And there are some other special things here. Please choose a topic below.
So yeah, the tours will be guided to choose one of these topics. We have the Union of Utrecht, the tapestries, or the architecture. Let me choose the architecture. And then you will see another video which specifies the
So,
architecture.
you want to know more about...
I will not play this full video for this presentation. However, I'm going to show you something else. After this video, the tourists will get the opportunity to choose one of the other two topics, and after after all the chosen topics, he can go back to the Dome Square, where you will get an outro video of the Academy building, and then you can really go back to the Dome Square, where you can choose from the other monuments. So this is a short demo of our prototype. So for future development, it would be great if there will be more virtual tour guides for for other monuments. And as I said before, we concentrated on the most famous topics of a monument. But it would be actually awesome if the emphasis could be more on the less famous stories. But that is something for the future, maybe. This concludes our presentation.
Excellent. Thank you very much, team. I very much enjoyed that. It's the first time I've seen some of this video footage, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I see the chat has also quite enjoyed it, so that's good news. Maybe you could stop the PowerPoint, because then we can see your faces a bit in full as we move on to the Q&A. Because there are some questions in the chat already. That is going to be good. But just as with the other team, I want to make sure I at least get this question in. And that is the question: what was for you as a team the most memorable moment working on your project?
Let me start. I think the filming part was really memorable, since we were in an historical location where we really can film our ideas, actually. So that is actually one of the most memorable moments.
Very nice. Yeah, being on site really does make a big difference. And Johannes and Avi, what are your thoughts on this? Do you agree? Is this also your most memorable moment?
Yeah, I think it was. It was also very fun to wear the gown and the hat, and just everything that's needed to how do you say it? To be a hoogleraar? I'm not sure of the English term.
To be a professor, yeah.
Yes.
A full one. Yeah.
So I didn't do the research and everything that's normally necessary to reach these things, but I just enjoyed it to to be that guy for a short time.
Very good. Yeah, look good on you. So let's see if the future will bring you a more permanent gown. And you, Avi?
Yeah, I agree too. I had never actually been to the academy building before, so it was fun to kind of first do all the research and then actually see it in person. And it was also very cool that we kind of had the place to ourselves. So we really had the time to really admire all the decorations. And yeah, it was just a great time filming.
Very good. Happy to hear. Let's move then on to the questions in the chat. The first one who sprang to the occasion was Tim Overkempe, one of our student assistants, instructors. And he said, I really like that you thought so thoroughly about your target audience and what they need and what doesn't exist in the market yet. Do you think the project can be compatible with already existing tours? Is that something you've thought about?
I didn't do the largest part of the presentation, so I had some time to think about it.
Yes.
But I think we are more competitors than really people who complements these things or to be compatible with. So yeah, I think that's kind of the answer.
Yeah, you think it will be hard to fit into a tour guide walking around to have these videos? It's really a separate experience, you'd say then?
Yes, indeed, and maybe even a replacement of the tour guides.
Yeah, maybe that's a good moment to jump into the second question by Tim, actually, which is, can the website also be reached from home instead of scanning the QR code at Dom Square? Since the narrator mentioned that she is the eyes and ears of the user, might be interesting in COVID times. So as a replacement altogether in that sense. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I definitely think that's a good option to consider, indeed, as mentioned, especially in Corona times. And I think it would be nice for also people who aren't as mobile, maybe, who can't visit in person, to kind of check out still the buildings and still kind of get a feel of the surroundings. So I think that would definitely be a good option for us to consider.
Yes, and on the other hand, we just have a prototype, so we don't have the QR code already. So if we only would have it available via the not available QR code, it would be work for nothing. Yes, it will be probably available on the Living Past website in a few weeks.
Definitely, we'll make sure of that. There are lots of segues in these questions. That's great. So Twan Peters asks, how could we integrate your work in the current QR code project? So that's utrechttimemachine.nl, where with QR codes in the city, there are already some tiles there. You can get to this website and get to know more about the history of Utrecht. You already mentioned this actually earlier in your presentation. That is something you didn't go for now. Do you see possibilities for integration there?
Person? Akash?
Uh,
I thought you wanted to answer the question. But
no.
There's just some deep thinking happening there.
I didn't have studied on the Lustrum project as it is now, so I don't really know what is available yet and what it looks like. But if possible, it could be inserted.
All right, that's something to explore further in the future then. Let's get to another question by Simon Dirks, also one of the instructor/student assistants. You mentioned that one of the reasons for choosing this project is that you could incorporate all of your personal learning goals. Could you tell a bit more about those goals and how you pursued them? So just for context for the audience, personal learning goals are goals that the students set for themselves as what they really want to get out of this course. And they're pretty much as important as the course learning goals that we start with. So it's a bit of a mix there. So what were your personal learning goals and how did it integrate? And for this, I like to do a little round. Maybe we can start with Avi?
Yeah, sure. For my personal learning goals, I think the most relevant one was that I really wanted to go from just an idea to like a working prototype, because in the previous individual assignment, we did come up with a proposal and we had kind of the idea ready, but I didn't develop it into a working product. So I really wanted to see if I could actually turn that idea into a working prototype, and I think we succeeded since we have a working website now. So I'm very happy about that.
Absolutely. Yeah, very, very good to hear. And you, Akash?
Yeah, my personal learning goal was going from scratch to something on paper. And a part of the most important thing that helped with that was creating the storyboard to get a feel of what we needed to uh, yeah design actually. And also the Moscow principle actually helped with prioritizing the several requirements of the website. Um, so yeah, I think my personal learning goal was implemented in this project.
I think so too. Yeah. And you, Johannes, are you happy as well with the achievement of your learning goals?
Yes, I think so. I initially stated a learning goal about making and editing videos, which I've been busy with. So that's one of the achieved goals. On the other hand, during the course, Simon mentioned that it was possible to make the website on our own, which I really found interesting, as I've been spending quite some time in doing that. Well, that was just a really nice experience.
Excellent, yeah, and I think you can be very proud of the work you made happen. If you look at the chat, you also see a lot of positive comments. I don't know if you already did, but that's all very good. Maybe a final question then, also by Simon. Do you have other ideas to take this project to the next step besides creating more content? What will be the future of this website and the videos you've created, you think?
One of the things I've also learned just by doing these things is that I'm not the best actor to think of. So maybe a better actor to shoot videos would be nice.
I don't think you did such a bad job, but
Oh, you didn't.
I guess a
videos.
position of okay, yeah. No, I'll reserve my judgment then. Let's see. Okay, Frans put in one final question. I think we can take that before we go to the final room, which is: do you think you could also link with the Dom Under initiative? I guess you did some mapping, all of you, in your first assignment anyway, so you know a bit about Dom Under and how it could relate. Do you have any thoughts on if there are ways? Are there ways to link?
The DOM under is actually when the user is pulling information. So that is something we actually also do. In this case, the tourist is pulling the information via the QR code to see the videos. So I actually think you can link it with the DOM under initiative. That's something we can think about. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Then if there are no further thoughts on that, then I would like to very much thank you for your presentation and the wonderful work you've done in the Living Past course. And then we're going to the main room again with all of us to have a kind of a group chat before we close off the stream. So I will see you there in a bit. Hello again. Good that you're joining us here in the main room. Slowly all the students will be joining from all different places. I'll make sure to put on the, let's see, together mode, large gallery. Doesn't feel like it today, it seems. That is fine. Well, good to be here together. You will see some novel faces as well. All the student assistants and instructors who've been part of this course, amongst which Twan, Simon, Tessa, Shaheen, Tim, all be doing great work there. I think Frans might also be joining later at some point. But as is by now customary, I think I have a habit of putting the microphone in Twan's hand at the start of these discussion sessions to kind of give a general comment on the course and how we think as one of the instructors how it went and how it relates to all the things happening around it with the Utrecht time machine. And in the meanwhile, I hope that the chat will be filling up with questions about anything relating to the project, the course, the time machine, the future of this, ways to collaborate. All these things are very much welcome in the chat, so make sure to leave them there and we'll get back to them. But in the meanwhile, Twan, what are your thoughts after hearing these two project presentations?
Let me start to say I'm really, I was again surprised by the quality of the work. Great. And this is not just, for the saying, but I'm serious. And one of the reasons, of course, all the products are not finished yet, but that's not what I see in the products. What I see is creativity, I see deep thinking, I see structured work flows, I see some of the concepts, whether it's Moscow or the Double Diamond. It's learning by doing, it's challenge-based, community-based, and what I feel great about it is that the QR code project, as it is now in process, so work in process, can really benefit from your work. Because I was impressed. Of course, Johannes is oh gosh, you are now a little bit too shy, and also Avi is great in her performance. You have Avi, by the way, your voice is great as a guide voice. And this is really true. And Johannes, you as the Record Magnificus, you did a great job. And what I liked about it is you have these tapestries and oh gosh, the 300-year celebration lustrum of the university, going back to that moment is something we should think of. How can we integrate this in the lustrum app? How great would it be? I don't know whether it's possible, because then I have to look to Tessa, Tim, and Shaheen, and maybe they think, oh gosh, no, it's already far too challenging. But I really like the idea. And then the other three in the teaching and learning lab and the novel and the way you innovated on the Malibaan, it making it more dynamic. And there's one thing we learned from working together with the QR code team is that your product may still benefit from just reading aloud the whole text in that's read in the films, in the demo, because there are still some mistakes you can prevent by just we did it by sitting together and reading it aloud. So and then you can even the smallest mistakes can be detected, and Tim, Tessa, and Shaheen can agree on this, I hope.
Indeed, so table read is still on the line, but I think we can all be very happy with both of the team's products. Also very nice, I'd like to add, is that they actually went to a classroom to get it evaluated in context, right? Which I think is definitely also a new high for getting it tested out.
Yeah, and and for the future of the visual novel, what I thought was is most promising is this working together with the secondary schools, so within the UTalent network, and see how you could then make a connection between the scenarios and the arty thing of drawing the novel. And bring that together, because this is a real great and valuable concept in the, I would say, in the Alpha Academy. So I'm going to propose that within that context.
Very good. There's definitely a bright future for both of these teams. Thank you so much, Twan, for giving us your thoughts on it. I'd also like to give the floor a bit to the student assistants of the course, who are all sitting around the table here. How you experienced this course, what your role has been in it, how you reflect on the products as well. Maybe you could ask Simon to kick off with that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, of course, it's been amazing again, because it always is, and it's never the same. So we had a couple of firsts this time. I think this might have been the first time that a team continued working on an existing project of former students, which I found super cool. So there was both enthusiasm about the visual novel, but also a critical viewpoint. So they took this critical viewpoint and they improved it and changed the target audience, and now there's a new product, which is amazing. And then also what I really liked during this course is that everyone really went for their personal learning goals. So not necessarily how can I get the best product out there with my own experience that I already have, but instead, how can I learn new things while creating this? And Johannes is a good example of this, because in the middle of the course, he changed his personal learning goals to create this website, which he had never done before, which was incredible. So we sat down for maybe 10 minutes during class in the teaching and learning lab. I showed him the basics of HTML. Then he went home, and then the next session he had a website, which is insane. So it's almost like we don't have to assist anymore. Generally, it was a really great atmosphere to work together. And then as student assistants, we tried to pitch in where we had to. But these two projects really worked out well, and I guess you can really be proud of the results that you showed us here today.
Absolutely. Any other thoughts from the student assistants? Maybe Shaheen or Tim or Tessa? Anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, so I just have to say your work is great, and it's been great. You've done a lot, and I'm especially surprised, or at least impressed, by how focused your products are in the end. You guys have really put the right work in the right things. And I feel like a lot of times that's really hard to do, right? So really congratulations on that, at least. And it's just really nice to see how involved your applications are with, or your products are with the context around it, like the stakeholders and the testing you guys did at the schools and stuff like that. That's of course incredibly important. That demands, I think, most of the work to like think that way, right? So on that too, a great job. I'm just really impressed, and that's all I have to say, really.
Yes, very nice. Maybe it is nice to hear everybody at least shortly. So Tim, what do you have anything to add to this, or your own experiences in this?
Yeah, I also really like the final projects which you guys have come up with. I'm really impressed. But I was also thinking it's really interesting that you sort of started from a same idea, that the user of a history application should have some sort of freedom, or he or she should determine what he wants to know, what one wants to know. I think it's really interesting that by different prototypes, but in a way they have this same nucleus almost. If for making digital applications more tailored to its user. I think that's really impressive because you both did a very great job, but you just came up with two completely different applications. So that's good. But that's also because you were just really focused on choosing a well-defined and clearly, determined audience. And I think that shows in your final projects as well.
Very nice. Yeah. Thank you, Tim. And then Tessa, I'm sure you've something to add from your own experiences. You've been at almost all sessions of this course, being super involved. So yeah, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, first I'd like to say that I think everyone has done a fabulous job, and it all looks very good and amazing. And it was really nice to see how in the beginning I think almost everyone was a bit unsure of what they would like to do and what the course was going to be like. But over time, I think everyone has really grown and also sort of crossed their disciplinary, like I'm doing this study, so I have to work on this. I think everyone really focused on their own personal strengths and what they can add, and I think in the end it really worked together, and everyone has created a really nice individual project, but also translated that into a very nice group project. So I think everyone has done a great job on that, and it was really fun to teach and be this involved. So yeah, it was really fun seeing the growth. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I fully agree. I think we all immensely enjoyed seeing your student work here and just the process leading up to it as well. It's been pretty great. I don't see any questions in the chat. And I think we could also use a little bottle moment. We're going to go to a VR room in a bit with all of us, just to have some final virtual drinks, I guess, before we turn to reflection on Friday again in the very final session of this course. Is there anybody in this room who would still like to make a final note? You can raise your virtual hand or just raise your voice if you would like to add a final note to the conversation. Frans, your audio is very...
we can't hear you.
Very quiet. I think, no, it's... we can hear you very, very quietly. Let's hear Twan first. Maybe you can take a look if the microphone issue can be fixed.
I have just one issue for the people, the team, the visual novel team. Could you please... make sure that everything is in order when you leave the teaching and learning lab, and close the door. Don't forget to close the door, otherwise we have a safety issue.
We'll make sure of it.
Okay.
Excellent.
So,
And you...
I didn't really understand what you before. If we,
Sorry, Anna?
Yeah?
You have an alien in your room.
I think it's Fran's microphone actually. Yeah. Oh well.
I didn't really understand what you meant by what you just said about the Untitled with the illustrations, like providing your own illustrations. So maybe you could.
No, it is more that your remark was very apt with regard to if you ask, for instance, secondary school students to produce scenarios, and also you also mentioned that it's if you want to have the same quality, then you have to ask an artist. So from the HKU or from some other place. Because if you leave it to the students of the secondary school, you are not sure of the quality of the visuals.
You don't want that.
And I totally agree. But one of the things I think is so promising is that because it invites pupils to see history in a completely new way. It revitalizes literally history.
Yeah, maybe they could like draw their own sketches of a scenario and then send it to us.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, that's a very good final note. Lots of future potential here. Thank you so much for all being a part of this stream and for presenting. And we'll be back in half a year with yet another course. And make sure to check out the website if you'd like to look at the products. They will be online very soon.
Have fun.
All right, have a good day.